We're back with Brandon and Leon. We're going to talk with Reviewer Magazine about their movie that they did on a dear friend of theirs who was a stalker.
I mean, an accused stalker.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we don't want to point any fingers. That's what we really like about the Seat Sniffer is we just were there with a camera and we let humanity happen. It's like. That's the way a lot of our films are. Is like we don't really force anything, and then when we did a documentary, we didn't really force anything either. We knew a guy who was goddamn interesting. Most of society probably wouldn't have considered him that interesting, but he's what makes up America really. He was just kind of a.
He had a fetish.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call it that, or a sickness, or he's just. Josh is himself, he's not afraid of who he is. He's, bottom of the barrel, real as you come, he's a straight shooter. And
so this was you said you're going to give me a copy of it. I haven't seen it yet, but you said he was a stalker and he was like coming around your apartment. He was like being a peeping Tom or something, or was he like?
Well, actually, that's when I was in the band. I was in a band called the Hateful Dead, and we used to practice in my friend Rick's house. And Josh lived across the street, and he would sit out on the curb and drink 40s and just listen to us and everything. And he would even dance out in the street. He had like the weirdest dance. It was like, the curly shuffle or whatever. He was just like kind of geeking all around in the street. And finally we started inviting him in to hang out and everything, and just started talking to him about, what he'd been through in his life, what he was going through at the point in time. And it was just so goddamn interesting that at that point I was buying my first 16mm camera. And
what year was this?
I want to say 2001.
Okay.
I bought a Claire NPR 16mm camera, and basically the Seat Sniffer was my film school. Like that's how I learned how to shoot. I bought a 16mm camera not knowing anything about film, and through that I learned how to shoot, 16mm, edit. I did all wet splicing and everything.
Wow.
And
old school, huh?
Yeah, it was fun. And then, it just got to the point where shooting on film is so expensive anymore, and it's almost like they make it to where you can't. It's like, yeah, you can shoot the film, but then you got to send it off to get it processed,
right.
And then they charge you even more to get it scanned, and then,
Still, there's some film snobs out there. There are people that in 35mm. I mean, I made the switch from film to digital in 2005, which was considered kind of late. But there's still people that it's like they want to do film because it's a specialty now.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like, if we ever get to a point in which we can afford to go back to film, I'll make that jump. I love film too. It's got. Like there's amazing cameras out there like the Red and everything that mimic what film did, but, film just still has this cool feel about it.
And like what are the advantages visually or whatever?
I don't think visually there's any difference anymore. I just think there's like that commitment step. There's like, you can always feel when something was shot on film. And you can always feel when something was digitally made to look like film.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. There's great movies like District 9 where like you would never know the difference. But
District 9 was all. I mean, all that CGI stuff obviously was computer generated, but nothing was shot on film in that.
No, that was all shot on the Red, and then I think they used like the silicon imaging cameras too, like the same ones that they use for Slumdog.
Awesome.
I think so.
Which brings us back to the real world here, as you guys do 3D. You don't have to mention the name of the company if you don't want to, but your straight job, so to speak, is you do 3D imaging for the film industry.
Yeah,
right.
And then we'd rather probably not talk about that.
Okay, no worries. Well, let's get back to your guerrilla low budget filmmaking, and which we were talking about the Seed Sniffer. Was this a documentary, a straight documentary, or did the guy actually do any acting and read from the script at all?
He's, like I said, he's a straight shooter. There was no script to it. He just.
We just showed up, or you and Rick just showed up at his house with a camera.
And
Okay.
Rick is one of my best friends. He has this ingenious way of, like he should have been a media type.
Down.
Yeah, he could just break people down and get what he wants out of them, like information-wise. Josh was always very, he didn't want to talk about certain things, but Rick would just whittle him down. He had a power to get the information out of him.
And what kind of information was he looking for that Josh was at first unwilling to provide?
Just, his sexual habits, how many times he masturbates in a day, what else?
Any gay experiences?
Yeah. Well, we had heard from a friend who was our guitarist from our band. They were friends from, like, high school and everything. We had heard from him that at one point when they were in Hawaii, they had both gotten really trashed, and they were sleeping in the same bed together, and Josh supposedly tried to, like, roll one over on him. And,
roll one over on him?
Like tried to get up on him.
Tried to mount him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Got it.
Josh still won't admit it to this day, but and we don't know which source we can actually believe on it.
Lee was saying, now jumping fast forward here, Lee was saying that the project you guys are working on now is something about questions regarding sexuality.
Yeah. It's called Trantastic.
Trantastic.
Yeah, and basically the movie is about a group of male transvestites, but they're straight transvestites, so they're kind of always having to deal with the issue. People always assume they're gay, blah blah blah. It's kind of that issue, but it really stemmed from our own experiences, kind of not cross-dressing necessarily, but both of us, kind of wear what maybe like androgynous type of a style. Brandon in particular wears a lot of women's clothing just because that's what he likes, and so that's where the movie came from.
All right.
Yeah.
So this gender bending, is this more theatrical, or is this for your personal pleasure? I mean, do you do when you go out, or do you do it at home? Are you wearing women's panties right now?
Well, no. Like, for me, it's always been more like, these are women's pants. Like, I have a 25-inch waist, and they just don't make that size of men's clothing. So, I mean...
How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay.
So it's like, where does the line get drawn? Like, if somebody knew that these were women's pants, they would think that was wrong. But unless you tell somebody, they don't know it.
Yeah.
And we just always, like,
is that the extent to his cross-dressing, just the pants he's wearing? Or do you ever, like, put on a bra and a woman's blouse or anything like that?
I mean, I used to a lot. Like, I used to, wear skirts and do all that crazy crap. But, I mean, not really anymore. I think I'm...
Didn't Whitman used to do that? Walt Whitman, I think. One time, there was some writer. Anyways, I don't want to speak out of ignorance, but there was some famous writer who would wear skirts into bars in New York City back in the 1800s. And somehow he got away with it. But okay, well, that's some new information. So that'll be the basis to the gender bending upcoming epic that Scumbag Movies is making.
Well, it's not just that. We're kind of poking fun at society's viewpoints on
lines. Like, where do people draw lines? And I think that's like a big issue in most of our films. Is like, why is this okay but this isn't? Like, who in society and in the world, like, makes up these rules? Where do these rules come from,
I agree.
So I think that's really the issue of the film for us.
Okay.
And for almost every one of our films.
Yeah, that's pretty much the underlying theme of all of our films is, like, who decides what's okay and what's not okay, and what is okay? It's like cuss words and stuff like that is so freaking ridiculous to me. Like, you can't say certain words. And my biggest pet peeve is, like, women's nipples. It's like, you watch all these TV shows and they're like, the only thing that they blur out is just the tiniest little nipple. It's like, it's so freaking ridiculous to me. That like,
one little part.
We were just talking about it the other night. You can, like, face chat on your iPhone with somebody clear across the world in China and everything, and still a woman cannot walk around topless. Like
men can.
Right.
Yeah. Men have nipples. I see tons of men with tits and everything walking around on the beach too. And it's like, why is it not okay? Like,
they're not as functional, I guess. And who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did a review of a documentary that was done on the porn industry up in LA, the alt porn industry, and they were saying that sex is everywhere in advertising except the actual act of it, is taboo still.
Well, that's what's funny too, is if you go over to other countries and everything, it's on every channel. There's full-on nudity, there's full-on porn, it's on all the channels, but there's no violence. Like, you don't see what you see here with like CSI and stuff like that. Stuff like that's censored over there.
Yeah.
Or at least like violent gore and stuff like that. Which, I mean, I don't think either should be censored really, but if any is going to be censored, I would assume you'd want to censor the violence and not the love, or like.
Right. Right. No, you're right.
We're like, what?
Violence and people getting killed or harmed and stuff is everywhere in American TV, but not affection and sexuality. Which, if I don't know, it's probably just the control that we have as an imperial power. We have to have mind control, keep people intimidated, and keep their strongest urges buckled down. I mean, everybody wants to have love and affection and stuff, and if we deny them that, if we're successful in denying them that, and keep them afraid of violence, then maybe we've got more power.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely.
So that's why we always like to touch on really, really sexually driven things in our films. We like to poke fun at violence and stuff like that too, just because it's also ridiculous, really. Like,
if people wanted to find your movies online, where would they go?
Scumbag.movies.com.
Scumbag.movies.com, and you're on Facebook and all that too.
Yeah.
Good. If they wanted to email you with their resume, their acting resume, and their headshot, just send it through the website.
Yep. All the contact information.
Very cool. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.